Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Arthur, for joining us on a podcast with Dawdle.live. And we are extremely happy and grateful to be hosting you. Completely will like to take very different perspectives on various things that's happening in your space. But before we start, do you take up, say, 1 or 2 minutes of your time and take our audience to your experience so far, your journey so far?
Definitely. Thanks so much for inviting me, Rishikesh. Well, my name is Arthur Gopak. I'm CEO of Alpha Gamma, which is a finance, media, and IT company. And my experience, I have experiences as a founder, as a finance expert, and as a public speaker. I've been a full-time entrepreneur for almost a decade now. Yeah, so I'm on a mission to really build impactful and exciting organizations. Right now, so while I have my media company that I manage, I'm currently setting up my own investment management firm in Luxembourg. I'm currently headquartered in Amsterdam, Netherlands, but my business is pretty much international. So I've been working with organizations in Europe, North America, Asia, Middle East, North Africa. So pretty much, so I've been also, I do enjoy traveling. I speak 5 languages. So I do have somewhat of a broad international perspective on business and investment trends.
Absolutely. And that's always great to have, actually, Arthur, because learning new languages actually help you adapt to those cultures and understand them very deeply.
Absolutely, yeah. I couldn't agree more. And I've actually noticed that whenever for me, it's more of a hobby, but I learned that eventually this is sort of a hobby that really pays off dividends tremendously in your lifetime. And indeed, you can connect with the culture, you can connect with representatives of each of these cultures, and maybe even do something together, be it business or romantic partnerships. So the opportunities are really endless there.
I'm thinking kind of aloud, is that I hope if you kind of see India, every 100, 200 kilometers, the language changes. So
Right. Yeah. I actually still want to visit your country one day. So I actually feel that India is definitely one of the massive economic drivers, at least of the next decade. And I know we're gonna be talking about the economic shifts later today. But I think India is an exciting example to follow. That's for sure.
absolutely, Arthur. So very quickly, I will kind of try to pick up your mind on the first topic that we have is related to impact investing and ESG.
Hmm.
And we see that that ESG should become truly a driver of social impact rather than a box ticking exercise. So how do you think can investment leaders strike a balance between delivering strong financial returns and meeting those ESG commitments?
I think, yeah, thanks for the question. I actually feel that so there is this fine line between the short-term financial gains and the long-term social impact. And the thing is that investors want to have returns as quickly as possible, while the social impact takes years to materialize, if any. I feel that at least I can share my perspective on this, because I've been running my media company initially as a social enterprise. And I would say that you always have to follow what really the market wants, instead of what is considered nice, or what the media say, because at the end of the day, the market decides. And I can tell that, say, the concept of the investment fund that I'm currently setting up was actually around creating an ESG focused investment fund. So basically, the investors, they will be not just generating a return, but they would be also supporting the social media business that I run together with my brother. Now, we spoke to investors, and we spoke to investors like family offices, high net worth individuals, like from all over the globe. I reached out to my immediate network, and I learned that actually nobody cares about ESG as much as they say that ESG matter. And I know, there are some social justice warriors who would try to convince you otherwise, but at the end of the day, these people are not giving you the money. Investors do. And however, what I've also noticed and this is what I'm noticing. So I had to shift the value proposition of the investment fund and focus on really just at what I have the competence in, and creating great financial models that eventually deliver the right returns. However, there are some principles that I personally, as the founder of the investment fund, that I stick to. So obviously, they're like ethical, moral, say, values that I personally stick to. And I think this is how I can set the example. And then whenever I talk to investors, I really try to see if there's actually fit, whether these people, they would really align with my personal values. And of course, if there is no if there is no alignment, like there's just no click happening, then I would be I'm not accepting the funds from these investors. And another thing is that I can also tell that there's no shortage of capital, really. The last time I checked, there is actually surplus of capital, and you really have to find the right people with whom you can really align with. And I think ESG is one of these terms, like millennials, and think of all the, all
Yeah.
the I think ESG right now in its current state, I think the biggest problem with it, yes, on paper it sounds nice, but
Yeah.
how do you actually measure the impact? Okay, we're not talking about the obvious things. We're not supporting, investing in companies that produce tobacco, that produce, drugs, harm people in any way. So that's obvious. But okay, but how do you actually measure the pollution, and how do we make sure that if we invest in one company that solves one particular problem, it doesn't create other problems,
Yes.
like secondary problems in return?
No.
And there is no way to kind of know. Yes, certain things that are obvious you can plan for, but all in all, I think that this is a whole debate. And because of this debate, most investors just prefer to skip this altogether and just chase their returns. And funny thing is that whenever I do also my own analysis, like these companies that claim to be unethical, they happen to have the healthiest balance sheet. So I mean that's sort of a paradox. So I'm not saying that we should be investing in these companies, but it's just sort of a paradox. And then investors are presented with the dilemma: okay, do I play nice, or do I make a lot of money like quick? But then again, so this is the angle that I've seen. So of course, as our fund continues to grow, because right now we're at the stage where we're attracting 150 million euros. So we want to manage like tens of billions of euros. So our goal is to manage 50 billion of euros in capital. So of course, once we get there, it will take more time, and I'll get exposed to more investors. But those investors who I've spoken to so far, they would prefer to discard it rather than anything else.
Got it. This was pretty insightful actually. This is pretty nice. And is it the same like across the globe, or is it like geography specific more?
So I would say it's so I've spoken to pretty much all established jurisdictions. Like think of Frankfurt, London, New York, Hong Kong, Singapore, and I've seen the same regardless of the geography. I would say capital in general is it's not so much about the cultural difference. So at least when you invest in at least when you invested in financial assets, yes, the way how you present this opportunity varies, but at the end of the day, everyone is chasing returns. Every investor wants to minimize risks, and all investors, they want to eventually they want to get the returns, not just as quickly as possible, but they want to be certain that they'll get them. And most of the time, there's always a risk attached, so they try to be careful. Of course, right now we're talking to investors, and our core investors at our current stage are the ones who actually are fine with accepting risks. But I think those investors who are already at that stage where we want to get, I'm pretty sure for them, it's more about being very conservative, and they say more no's than yes to opportunities.
And now, I will go to something which you really feel about is that, you have been deeply involved in building ecosystems for young professionals.
Mm-hmm.
You would have observed them very closely in terms of how the next generation is approaching career growth, entrepreneurship, and financial independence.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Tell us a bit about how can platforms and networks democratize access to opportunities for talent, especially from the underserved backgrounds.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a great question, because I would say that I personally came from a modest background, so I
Same here.
actually had, yeah. So I
Same here.
had, yeah, exactly. So I had to come. I basically got my education by winning scholarships because I didn't have the financial means. I have to be kind of smart, so I had to study hard. I had to learn things, apply them, and I would say that when I first thought of the idea of Alpha Gamma as a social platform, I was already open to the idea that opportunities are endless. And I was just misplaced. So the place where I was based at the time, that was not the place where I belonged to. And so I was always looking outside of that environment where I was present at the time. And I always looked at what else is there, what else the world has to offer. And when you have this sort of a mindset, I started seeing opportunities. Maybe I saw an ad like in a printed newspaper, or I saw a banner, I saw a commercial like somewhere randomly,
Yeah.
and I thought, would it be cool to have a platform where opportunities like these are present in one place, and these say opportunity creators, or opportunity hosts, they would come to me, and then we would work together on promoting these opportunities to the world, so to speak.
Yes.
With I think so. While this idea is to me personally very appealing, I actually had to learn the hard way that eventually those people who really want to achieve something in their lives, they'll find a way. So
Absolutely.
so you don't. I mean, yes, we were able to build a community, but eventually those people who really thrive, like they don't need like guidance per se. They'll find the materials, they'll find the opportunities, they'll go out there and connect with the right people. I mean, at the end of the day, nobody taught me this, right?
Yes.
Nobody taught you, Rishikesh, about this. So you had this drive from within.
Yeah.
And then once you have this sort of a, like, say, inner compass that will guide you, then be it Alpha Gamma or any other platform or any other network, then you'll kind of discover it. Now, I think there is another challenge, however.
Yeah.
So, because I do get invited to speak at different events, universities invite me to speak in front of their students. And I would say that the biggest challenge is to really I think we're going through the crisis of expression. Like, I really think we do. And let me explain that. I think a lot of people prefer to be the consumers of content instead of being the creators. So this is the good and the bad thing. So this is the good thing for us as the creators, because we're talking, and the right people will discover our podcast. When you're looking for the dream job, you're looking for the dream client, you're looking for, say, the dream investor, you'll have to be out there. You can't be just hiding somewhere and then magically this opportunity happens. I mean, if for some reason Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos, they didn't miraculously became billionaires, right? So that's why I feel that you have to be out there. You have to be conscious about where you want to get, and really master the art of communication. And I mentioned that I'm speaking at events, and probably one of the most popular questions I got from students was, how do you actually approach people? Like,
Yes.
that's just crazy. Like, to me, I thought, okay, well, you just find the phone number and give a call, or reach out on LinkedIn, social media, send an email, if necessary, even a handwritten note.
Yes.
If it's an important person, I mean, just find a way. So, and to me, that was so mind blowing. Like, to me, I've never, like, when I was a student, like almost a decade ago, I never had to. I mean, to me, that question would have been obnoxious. But
Yeah.
now I see that this is actually a problem. And I think the biggest problem is that this sort of a maybe consumer mindset, like, for content. And instead, I think you have to be more of a creator. And maybe to give another example. So we do receive invitations, like, say, well, or I should say applications to join our team at Alpha Gamma. And, whenever I personally get CV like this, the first thing I do, I actually look up the person. And if
Yeah.
I can't find that person online, like, to me, it's a no. Like, to me, do I really have to explain the importance of being visible in the 20s of the 21st century? I think, to me, it's so obvious that if you're not online, then you just don't exist. And the very first thing people do, I mean, it's just the very first thing people do whenever, like, doesn't matter. Like, yes, I don't care if a person is a billionaire and maybe that person can live on a secluded island. But even that person, the very first thing that that person would do, go on search now on ChatGPT and look up, okay, who the hell is Arthur Gopak, or who the
Yes.
hell is Rishikesh
Yes.
from Dawdle.live podcast,
Yes.
and then if you don't appear in those results, well, I mean, then I've got some bad news for you.
Absolutely true. And Arthur, I think this problem exists across the globe because what I feel is that from the time when this face-to-face interactions has actually decreased,
Hmm.
especially COVID and after COVID as well,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think people are, I find a lot of the students or, even the graduates, they feel, it's so difficult for them to kind of reach out to people. It's kind of, unnatural, for them. The same thing was so much natural to you and me. Like,
Yes, yeah,
yeah,
exactly. And I think, and you mentioned about democratizing and if we're talking about underrepresented people, I think so you guys, if you're listening to it, I think you have much bigger drive than those who already have it all.
yeah,
Because these guys, they are playing it safe
yes,
because they think and they're taught that they have something to lose. And
yes,
you guys, like, and I was, I mean, and that's why, like, you and I, Rishikesh, like, we're like hungry for, out
yeah,
there. You guys are who are listening to that, to our conversation today.
yes.
You are, so you really have nothing to lose. So then what's gonna happen if you go out there, send that email? Like, the worst thing that
Rejection. Yes,
yes, but then and then it's not wasted effort, because you'll,
yes,
like, with every message like this, you're mastering the art of communication, you're mastering discipline, you're really are being present and aware of what's going on around you. And
yeah,
besides, you never know who will say yes to you. I have so many examples when I reached out to these important, inapproachable people who actually messaged me back.
yeah,
And so I would say that just go out there and the miracles will start happening. I would say that you guys really, you shouldn't box yourself as a, say, underrepresented. I actually feel that this is your strength. And I also feel that if you are a bad communicator, I think this will be your biggest disadvantage. So if you are not able to, so you should learn how to articulate your ideas, your thoughts well. I mean, I know it sounds like basic thing, just like, brushing your teeth every, like, twice a day, every day. But to me, this is critical to success, and doesn't matter whichever path you choose, be it artistry, be it, say, sports, be it business, show business. I think the same principle applies, that in isolation things don't happen. You have to be part of the networks, you have to be visible. I think I can recommend two great sources on this. I read a great book on, it's called The Success Formula. I can recommend, I'll tell you who the author is. I mean, I can later on
absolutely.
look it up. I think. Oh yes, I found it. It's Jack Canfield, and I think it's him. So anyway, but the bottom line is that you have to be exposed to networks. You have to be and there are many examples. So this author studied the involvement of all the successful people out there. So
Yeah,
very rarely it happened that if you're not part of the network, you're not part of the epicenter, that you'll be discovered, you'll be noticed. So you have to be where the activity is. That's why you have to be visible, and you have to know how to communicate with people, and you have to learn how to enjoy it as well. I mean, the bigger your goal is,
yeah,
prepare, the more conversation you'll have to have.
absolutely, Arthur. You're so right and bang on.
Hmm.
Arthur, I will kind of take your views on something which is related to cross-border, investment challenges.
Sure.
Uh, kind of operating across global markets, it is filled with kind of hurdles, let it be regulatory, cultural, or technological, uh, you know, in terms of the cross-border investments that are happening. So how do you see emerging economies reshape global wealth flows over the next decade?
Well, so fantastic question. I feel that right now, what's going on, at least what I'm observing, is that there is already the shift going from the west to the east in terms of the economic power. I'm also seeing this in terms of the clients who come from the eastern part of the world, who are able to afford our services, while their western counterparts, with whom, say, organizations with whom we used to do business for years, they no longer can afford our services, or they consider it expensive. And to me, this, I would say, this already presents this. I mean, this is like one little anecdote that confirms this large trend happening. Sure, there are still cultural, culture. Well, I would say not so much cultural, but regulatory blocks happening. For example, I was looking for ways to find a broker that will allow me to invest in a couple of markets at the same time. For example, in South Korean stocks, and I was surprised to see that, like, pretty much none of the major brokers, they allow access to it. So who would even thought? And I would say, okay, so and I would imagine that there are some markets that are, say, close to the world, but this is not an example. I mean, you have companies like Samsung, right? So operating from there, and so, or Kia Motors. So there are many. Yeah, I think so. The more you kind of dig into this, I feel that there are more solutions you can come up with to avoid these roadblocks. I think there is a tremendous business opportunity there. So if you're able to overcome this and create a unified solution, be it payments, be it investments, I think this is like an opportunity in itself. Then I actually feel the world, despite what some political analysts say, I actually feel it will become more globalized. And I think like some of the, without touching upon the politics, I feel that the tariffs are temporary. Like, the world is so used to being closed and together, and then now kind of trying to break this trade apart with tariffs and barriers. I feel like we're going back into 18th century, and this comes kind of unnatural to progress. So that's why I think these tariffs, it's just a temporary thing. And I feel that with so it's not uh, helping the global trade in any way. Having said that, I feel that, like, to kind of give you a summary of what limits. So these are the regulatory roadblocks, and technology. I would say that technology. So in terms of technology, I'm actually surprised, like, what kind of developments are going on in, say, Thailand, in Africa. Just this morning, I spoke with one founder who's building the fastest optical internet in Kenya, so, which is like the fastest in the world. So I feel that the countries that are called emerging countries, I actually I hate this term because I feel it's kind of condescending. I actually feel that these countries that are currently lacking infrastructure, they're kind of, this gap is being actively, say, covered. And I actually, I mean, say, in Kenya there'll be better internet than it is in Germany. So I mean, have you ever been to Germany? I mean, because the internet is just horrible. And then still, I mean, Germany is considered the economic powerhouse of Europe, and it also has Berlin as the one of the biggest startup ecosystems in the world. But still, they have crappy internet. So I actually feel that so there will be infrastructural, say, disadvantages, but they're being solved really actively, and I think this is a huge opportunity to really find a way to create the like the infrastructure in these countries. And I also feel, in terms of technology, the embracement of new technologies, I think this is critical. Say, if someone is so used to, say, I meet people who say AI, is a temporary thing, it's a fad. I would say I have my own reservations, so I can't tell what's gonna happen like 3 years from now in terms of like AI development. I can only speculate, but I personally see merit in this technology, and I feel that those people who say no, there is none. To me, it's like, it's like, the meeting dinosaurs who are seeing the meteor coming their way, and but they're just not seeing it. So to me, it's like, so these organizations will be wiped out. So I think embracing the technology and trying out new things, I think this will be a much limiting factor. And I was invited to speak in China 1.5 years ago, and I've never been to China before. I have many friends in China. I do business with Chinese organizations, but the The fact that I traveled to Beijing, I traveled to Shenzhen. I felt like I traveled to the future, and then I came back to Amsterdam. I felt like I came back to the past, and I feel that I'd say, I mean, that at least China, in terms of the startup ecosystem, technology, innovation, I'm not even mentioning the production capacity, manufacturing, like they're far ahead. And I think, I mean, if you ask me, Europe is already lost. I mean, US tries to do something about it, but Europe, I mean, I really don't see any positive changes in that direction. So I feel that and I saw that that people in China, they seem so open to technology. Just to give you one little example, two little examples. One is that when I arrived to Beijing. So normally, say when you come to Europe, you see that so whenever before you leave the plane, you see there's this little conveyor truck picking up the luggage, right? And typically it's people throwing the bags, right?
Yes.
Nothing like this in Beijing. Nothing like this. I saw, so it was fully automated. I haven't seen anything like this before. I even recorded that. So there is a fully electronic, like say, conveyor thingy. So all the so it grabbed all the bags, collected all the bags, and there was just one person operating, make sure, just to make sure that this robot doesn't misbehave. So that was insane. And then another example is that I saw the street musicians playing like downtown Beijing, and they were accepting the QR code. So not the money, but the QR codes. And I saw I saw street musicians like this in a couple of places. I haven't seen anything like this in Europe. And to me, I feel that this like embracement of technology, I think this will set people. Well, I feel that this already sets people apart. So it's just on an individual level. If you are embracing new things, you're open, you're presenting yourself to the world, I think you'll be just fine, and you'll be thriving in this environment.
Absolutely, absolutely. And great insights actually. And now I will kind of touch upon some bit of AI. If you'd like to discuss a few use cases of AI that you have seen
Mhm.
uh, in various industries, especially say, career development or say the wealth creation industry as such, if you'd like to talk on that.
Sure. So with AI, we're applying AI in content creation, but then again, I would say AI is a great amplifier, but it's never it's a horrible replacement. And I feel that you still have to be a knowledgeable expert to know how to operate it. And the AI is a great tool when you can offer structured task, and you can offer the necessary context to do the job. However, you still are the person in charge. You're the person responsible for the end result, and you might, so basically, you still have to deal with human beings. But certain tasks can be automated. Sure, like the email. So if you have to send out a generic email, generic communication, all that is already being delegated to AI. The sales, I would say, in our sales operations, when we are looking for, so we want to structure messy data. So we ask the AI tools to help us structure them in a way that are say easy to use. We give them specific criteria that we ask the tools to sort the data, and then we also ask, and then prepare the email templates that we can send out based on a couple of the examples that we've already sent out. Then and we always review the content before we're sending it out to real human beings, because I would say that the more you work with the AI tools, the more you can see if someone else is using them. And normally you can see this if someone is using them badly. So you could tell, okay, that person is using the AI tools. But I would say that I mentioned that AI will not be a replacement, because at the end of the day, we feel if there is, say, whenever we read an article and we can immediately tell if it's written by AI or a human being. So normally AI written text, they're kind of, well, they don't have any soul in it. So it
Yes.
feels like reading a very bland, boring press release.
Yes.
So It's great. It's great for even if you ask these tools like say ChatGPT to write a specific author, it's still like a very bad imitation of that. So I feel that you still have to rely on your own gut. You can look at the ways how to say you can amplify your current work and maybe scale your say operations. Don't but it's not a magic say tool that will immediately replace like all the people, all the necessary work that has to be done to make these tools work in the first place.
Yeah. That's
uh,
great. And so one of the things that you talked about is that for data structuring, you use AI
yes.
tools, and also for do you also use AI for identifying investment opportunities or for targeting investors?
No, we actually, so for that we don't. Why? Because the limitation of AI is that it's as good as, so it's as good as long as it has access to all the necessary information. So, but the thing is that it doesn't have all the necessary information. And I even read a couple of scientific papers on the accuracy of say ChatGPT in predicting stock returns. And so far, the results have been pretty mixed. Say you don't need ChatGPT to identify, like, say, long-lasting opportunities, like the ones that will be generating returns like for years to come. But if you want to do something short term, then it's pretty bad for it, because most of the time when you already have the news coming out, it means that this news has already been priced in. And then, well, ChatGPT can only respond based on the sentiment, but this sentiment is taken from the publications. And another thing, I would also, I think I read the study, another study on the sources that the ChatGPT uses. So I was surprised to see that more than 40% sources are being used from Reddit. I mean, just to illustrate how ridiculous this tool can be. So ask for a tasty recipe for pork wings.
Yeah.
Yes, I said it right, pork wings, and see what it replies to. And so that's why trusting it fully, I wouldn't recommend anyone to do this. I think you need to have. I mean, this tool lacks critical thinking, regardless what OpenAI says. And at the end of the day, you can definitely ask the tool, and this is something that I used to summarize some of the reports. But even then, I still read those reports regardless. But I ask to maybe immediately find specific keywords or specific, say, trends. But I also notice that sometimes it actually misses the context that I'm looking for. So that's why I still feel you have to kind of, well, trust but verify, just like with most of the things in life. But I still feel that when in structuring some data, when you don't need like 100% accuracy, it's still fine for that sort of tasks.
Absolutely. This was great, Arthur. Like, we kind of touched upon various topics.
Indeed, yes.
I hope this podcast is going to be very insightful for a lot of audience who will be watching it. And Arthur, we look forward to hosting you again and again on various topics.
Rishikesh, yeah, thanks. Thanks so much for having me, Rishikesh. Yes, and maybe the last point I would like to mention is that right now, I think for all the our listeners, I want to say this. Uh, right now, we're living the best probably time in human history. That you can go out there, create your own project, be visible, make money, and get that freedom that we're all after. So I think the world hasn't seen a better time than today to do that.
Absolutely, Arthur. Thank you so much, Arthur. We'll be in touch.
Sounds good, Rishikesh. Thanks so much.